The event where new iPhones were announced has taken place. Just like every September. But I felt that old excitement had disappeared while watching it. I don't know what you think. We used to study Steve Jobs' presentations like they were lessons. This was the topic of one of the first videos on this channel. It was even like a presentation masterclass. They're not like that anymore. For one thing, the event isn't even held live anymore. Pre-recorded videos are shown, albeit magnificently recorded ones. But something fundamental has changed, and no matter how good the production quality is, it can't awaken that powerful effect and excitement that live events provide. iPhone launches used to capture the attention of the entire industry here in America. Nowadays, it seems like nobody really cares much. Music, don't get me wrong. The new iPhones are really good. Even the regular models that appeal to everyone have finally received some very important critical features from the Pro series. Leading these is the 120Hz promotion display, for example. Finally, the new iPhone Air is very sleek, very thin, very light. If it were 2 grams lighter, it would be the same as the Samsung Edge. It's a very clever idea to fit all the hardware into that camera bump they had to include. Yes, the entire phone except the battery is right there. Imagine if you just took that part and attached it to glasses like this. It would become smart glasses. Or if you combine 2 phones this thin, you'd get a foldable model. Indeed, they'll finally release that next year too. I know this is Apple's strategy. They don't try to be first. They prefer to take a technology after it matures and then optimize it. But remember this point of mine. We'll use this thought in a moment. Because you can't apply this strategy everywhere. As I said, the iPhones are very beautiful. From some angles, we can consider this a major leap. The new cooling system they call vapor chamber will extend battery life, which was one of the biggest problems in previous Pro models, and seems likely to provide significant performance improvements. So there's important progress on the hardware side. But here's the problem. People don't really care about these improvements. They find them boring. I use both Android and iPhone daily. I choose one to stay current with innovation, and the other for messaging convenience since many people around me use iOS. That's why I don't upgrade my iPhone every year. I had no intention of doing so this year either, but I decided to upgrade to the iPhone 17 Pro because of 2 professional innovations in the cameras. Not the Max, but the Pro. Those 2 innovations are quite specific. Include improved ProRes recording and advanced codec support, really niche features that don't appeal to everyone, but are very important for video professionals. They actually work and make a difference. The other is that the front camera sensor has been made square. It might seem very simple or unimportant, but I think it's significant. Because this is an extension of the open gate trend that has recently started in the professional video industry. This way, you utilize the full power of the sensor, and the worry of, should I shoot this horizontally or vertically, completely disappears. I predict that all cameras will use these types of sensors in the future. But of course, as I said, these aren't features that appeal to everyone. They can be very technical. So it's normal for the excitement to have disappeared. Even the most enthusiastic find these developments boring. Because something else now dominates the technology agenda. Artificial intelligence. People are no longer interested in the body. People are now looking at the soul. That's why AI, not hardware, seems more exciting. Apple hasn't entered certain areas for years. It has also deliberately pushed away some opportunities with the back of its hand. So even though it still makes amazing products and very attractive devices, it can't capture imagination like it used to. So what will Apple's future be in this situation? This is the main question I want to discuss with you today. Will Apple become Nokia, or is it becoming Microsoft? Because both companies were once at the top of the tech world, but then what happened? Nokia was perfect in hardware. When you said mobile phone, they came to mind first. Nokia connected people. They had sold 435 million phones. Apple had only managed to sell 1.4 million iPhones. There's a 300-fold difference. Nokia made excellent hardware. It was legendary in terms of durability. Think of it like Toyota in cars. Its distribution network was also very strong, but it couldn't see one thing. Hardware was no longer the most important factor. Platforms were starting to become crucial. People were preferring to look at and use applications in marketplaces rather than phones. They were choosing them. Nokia made wrong moves too, of course. It tried to make its own operating system. It developed Symbian. Then it tried to make a deal with Microsoft. It switched to Windows Phone, but never considered adopting Android. Yet if it had abandoned its own OS ambitions and quickly switched to Android, it could have been agile. Maybe it could have remained as Apple's strongest competitor today, but it didn't do this because it had pride. It didn't want to lose control. Look, BlackBerry was the same. Those who want to see how the power it possessed poisoned itself and blinded it can watch the movie made about this subject. There are very good lessons in that movie. Nobody's place is guaranteed. You can suddenly lose control and power. And that's what happened. Applause. Both Nokia and BlackBerry completely exited the phone business. And these companies today are trying to survive in areas like security or network equipment. Music. Now let's look at Apple. Apple Intelligence came late. When it arrived, it created great disappointment. Even Apple's own AI manager, John Giannandrea, and other executives have expressed internal frustration with Siri's development progress this year. Many senior and important AI employees have also started transferring from Apple to other companies, seeking better opportunities in the rapidly evolving AI landscape. Now we can't know exactly what's happening inside. Apple is certainly one of the most secretive companies about this, but we can say that this slowness in keeping up with AI developments is not due to strategy. But we can't claim it's Nokia either, because there are things different from Nokia. Apple hasn't completely lost control right now. The iPhone is still very strong, the ecosystem is still very solid. It continues to make money, because it sells not just hardware, but services too, and it's showing the most growth in this area anyway. So we can't talk about a sudden collapse like Nokia, but there's a long-term problem. Now we mentioned BlackBerry, we mentioned Nokia. When talking about losers in the mobile world, well, Microsoft was actually in a worse position than Nokia in the 2010s. IT could show almost no presence on mobile platforms. Windows Phone completely failed. The whole world started using iOS and Android. In 2013, Microsoft's share in all connected device sales dropped to almost zero. But Microsoft did something that put it in a stronger position than even Apple today. It admitted that it lost the platform war. It basically trampled its pride underfoot. It looked at metrics and data and completely changed its strategy. When Satya Nadella became CEO, he clearly stated and announced that the Windows Everywhere narrative was over. He brought Office to iPad. He bought LinkedIn. He focused on cloud leadership with Azure. And now in the AI age, Microsoft is again acting quickly and agile, trying to position itself correctly. It has already integrated Copilot into all its products. There's AI everywhere, in Office, in Teams, in Windows. Well, it had already partnered with OpenAI from the very beginning. It immediately offered their technology for use in its own ecosystem. Apple later tried to do the same thing, but Microsoft doesn't just rely on OpenAI. On one hand, it's working on its own. It's also strategically bringing in alternatives, second and third backups. Moreover, it doesn't see AI as a platform shift. It positions it as a tool that strengthens existing platforms. Think of it as a different energy source. It takes its plug and connects it to Teams. It works better. It connects it to Office, making it smarter. Look, despite missing the mobile train in 2013, Microsoft's market value reached $3.8 trillion as of September 2025. Apple's is still $3.5 trillion, and more importantly, Microsoft's growth rate is twice that of Apple's. In the last 10 years, Microsoft's revenue has doubled while Apple's has grown much more slowly. Microsoft's operating profit is also 45%. Apple's remained in the 30s. Yes, Apple's revenue from cloud services and subscriptions has reached $100 billion. But there's no real innovation in any of these. These are superficial solutions designed around How can we extract more value from existing iPhone users? How can we increase their lifetime value? People now call this the Apple tax. For years, they're forced to pay monthly cloud fees to avoid losing those photos, videos, and memories they've taken and accumulated. This is already one of the biggest barriers preventing them from switching to another phone. The situation wasn't much different in the old Microsoft era either. People were using Windows, but they were searching the web with Google. So even with the device under Microsoft's control, the agenda was being set by Google. Then mobile came and Microsoft's platform power completely eroded. Could something similar be happening with AI now? People are using iPhones daily, but who are they asking their questions to? ChatGPT, Gemini, AI assistants like Perplexity. Even on Apple's device, the agenda is with others. So what scenarios are ahead for Apple? I see three main paths. The first scenario is Nokia's path. Apple continues to lag in the AI race. It insists on its own AI system, but because it can't take the necessary steps in a timely and agile manner, it doesn't mature, and eventually people start using the iPhone just for messaging or other basic functions. The real value creators are on other platforms and even develop their own devices. Applause, in this case, Apple remains as a luxury hardware manufacturer but loses the technological agenda. The second scenario is Microsoft's path. Apple establishes strategic partnerships with the best AI companies, like in the ChatGPT integration, but accelerates and expands these steps. Maybe it buys a company like Anthropic. It has the money. It makes its platform a place that hosts the best of AI, and in this case, the iPhone ecosystem continues to remain strong. It just outsources the AI side. Right now, it seems closer to this scenario. The third scenario is much more radical. Instead of trying to make AI from scratch itself, it encourages developers to make AI applications. It strengthens them, lends a hand. It makes Apple Intelligence a platform. It provides a solid foundation on which third-party developers can write the best AI applications. For the end user, it also establishes those famous security and privacy barriers around it. But inside, it allows developers to develop the best applications, to do the most innovative things, and more importantly, it makes a fair revenue share. I think this third scenario is the smartest. Because Apple's real strength was never in the software itself. It was in the integration of software and hardware. If you can't make Siri as good as ChatGPT, well, make the iPhone the platform where ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity work best. This is much more logical. But can Apple do this? Here's the question. Because this means sharing control. Nokia couldn't do this either. Because pride got in the way. Does Apple have the same problem? Applause. Right now, Apple's situation is more similar to Microsoft's from 10 years ago, in 2015, than to Nokia's. Still strong, still making money, but late to realize the new platform shift. Microsoft changed. Apple hasn't changed yet. All these questions we're asking, all these assessments we're making aren't actually about 2025, folks. They're about 2035. The decisions Apple makes today and in the next few years will show their results within 10 years. About 10 years ago, Apple again held a launch in September and showed a very beautiful video there. A video with lines and dots in it. It became one of my favorite videos among everything they've made so far. It was a perfect video with its minimalist design and the messages it conveyed. But making such videos is easy, talking is easy, giving the message is much easier than implementing it. Whether Apple becomes Nokia or Microsoft is entirely a matter of choice. But this isn't just about technological capability, just about money and power, it's about strategic intelligence. And my core argument is quite clear. The hardware is still perfect. The device is very attractive, very thin, but the agenda is being set by AI. People are now interested in the soul, not just the body. They're using the essence of technology. Technological success isn't achieved in a day. It starts being built years in advance. But failure follows the same timeline. The decisions companies make today determine their fate a decade from now. About 10 years ago, Apple held a similar September launch and showed a beautiful video with lines and dots. vision. Apple stands at a crossroads. The path they choose in the next few years will determine whether they follow Nokia into irrelevance or Microsoft into renewed dominance. The question isn't whether Apple has the resources; they have more money than most countries. The question isn't whether they have talented people; they still attract some of the world's best minds. The real question is whether they have the strategic wisdom and, more importantly, the willingness to adapt their identity. Nokia had everything: market dominance, excellent hardware, global distribution. But they couldn't let go of control when the platform shift happened. Microsoft had a similar moment of truth and chose adaptation over pride. They admitted defeat in mobile, embraced their competitors' platforms, and found new ways to win. Apple is facing their platform shift moment right now. Artificial intelligence isn't just another feature to add to iPhones, it's fundamentally changing how people interact with technology. The question is, will Apple embrace this change, or will their legendary control and perfectionism become their weakness? I believe the third scenario I mentioned is their best path forward, turning Apple intelligence into a platform that empowers developers to create the best AI experiences. This would be true to Apple's heritage of creating tools that empower creators, while acknowledging that in the age of AI, the best innovations might come from unexpected places. Time will tell which path Apple chooses. But one thing is certain, the decisions made in Cupertino today will echo through the tech industry for the next decade. We'll see which one Apple chooses.